Good evening. It's good to be with you again this evening. So let us pray. God of resurrection, God of life, we pray for our world, for the Ukraine as it is decimated by war, that a just peace may arise, that Russian aggression may be halted and reversed, that freedom, justice, and goodness may prevail, and for all nations suffering from war, for Israel and Palestine, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and for all other countless conflicts across our world. God of resurrection, God of life, we pray for our nation, for those suffering from the rising costs of living, especially gas, electricity, food prices, and for those who worry how they will cope financially from day to day, for all those who are seeking ways to alleviate the pain of these rising costs, for those who have suffered the strains of pandemic stress, but whose traumas are only just beginning to show, for those currently suffering from COVID with the rise of infection rates, God of resurrection, God of life, we pray for this ancient and loyal borough of Newcastle-under-Lyme, for those who are seeking to build up the economy in our town, for those who are suffering from job losses, and those who live on our streets, for the ongoing discussions regarding Wally's Quarry, for the deliberations of this council, and for the protection and guarding of its members. We ask, Lord, that you will bless this borough of Newcastle-under-Lyme, this county of Staffordshire, our sovereign lady, the Queen, and the whole nation. And if you wish, if you would like to join in with me in saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
polls.
Please be seated. I welcome members to the meeting this evening and welcome to those members of the public and press who have joined us this evening in person or via YouTube. If any members would like to remove their jackets, please feel free to do so. Or put your overcoat on. Good evening, members. Before we begin, I need to go over the usual housekeeping rules. There are no fire drills planned for this evening, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave the building by the nearest exit and assemble in the School Street car park at the rear of the building. Please do not re-enter the building until you are advised to do so. I would like to remind members of protocols around speaking during this meeting. No member should speak until invited to do so by myself. If you wish to speak, please could I ask you to raise your hand high until you've been acknowledged. Please would all members in the room use their microphone whenever they speak, as without them, anyone watching online will not be able to hear you. To use the microphones, please press the button at the front and centre when invited to speak, and wait a moment for the light on your microphone to come on. Please remember to turn off your microphone once you have finished. Please could I ask at the end of this meeting to make sure that you take all your belongings and waste with you. Thank you. We will now commence the business for this evening. Agenda item 1, apologies. I have received apologies from the councillors that I'm about to name. Councillor Moffat, Councillor Rout, Councillor Simon White, Councillor Gary White, and Councillor Elizabeth Shenton. Is there any other apologies, please? Councillor Sweeney?
Councillor Field will be a very few minutes late.
Thank you. Councillor Fox-Hewitt?
Thank you. Councillor Annabel Lawley sends her apologies.
Thank you. We move to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. The next agenda item is item number 2. Are there any declarations of interest from any members or officers in relation to any items of business on the agenda? No. We move on to agenda item 3, minutes of the last meeting. Members are to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of February 2022, and you will find those minutes on page 5 to 10 of your agenda. Can the minutes please be agreed?
Move them, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Agenda item 4. Members, I want to begin Mayor's announcements by asking the group leaders to say a few words about the awful situation in the Ukraine. I would then like to give other members the opportunity to say a few words about that if they do so wish. Councillor Simon Tagg, can I invite you to say a few words on this issue, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for obviously putting this forward at the beginning of the meeting. I think we've all been shocked and continually shocked by every time we turn our television on and we see the awful atrocities that are taking place and the effect on innocent people in Ukraine. I think we're all, standing with those people. And I think also in this, you see, as I say in my leader statement later, the good that comes out in people in this, and right across this country, and I think right across the civilized world, we've seen the response, the aid response and the support for those people in Ukraine. I think in Newcastle it's been no different. We've had the the fundraising, we've had the shop which the council gave to the Save Our Stand with Ukraine group, and also the raising of the funds for the transport of those materials to Ukraine. Of course, a consignment of that left last week, bound for Ukraine. So that aid is getting to them. Things that people in Newcastle gave and donated have made their way to Ukraine. And also, we've had a request just in the last couple of days for from somebody that lives in Newcastle who's got family in Ukraine, but also wants to look to setting up a support hub for any Ukrainian evacuees that do come here. And I think that's a long tradition in Newcastle of having a Ukrainian community. If anybody remember along Hempstall's Lane, there was the Ukrainian Centre for many years, particularly during the Cold War and Soviet Union period. So a request has come in from the council via local member from the town ward and also from the MP, our MP for the council to look for a premises for that. So our chief executive is looking at that in detail now and is looking for something, and we will announce that and do all we can to help support that. I think I'll leave it there, Mr. Mayor, because obviously on the leader statement, there's an opportunity to ask me questions on anything that about the council's response, particularly about the evacuees and the people that may be coming into Staffordshire or Newcastle. So, but as I say, I stand with the people of Ukraine, and we must do all we can to help them and also to ensure this war ends very quickly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Stubbs, would you like to say a few words, please, on the situation in the Ukraine?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, in these dark hours, our thoughts, our solidarity and our resolve are with the Ukrainian people. Invading troops march through their streets, missiles shell their cities. They have been cast into a war through no fault of their own, but purely because Putin fears their freedoms. He also knows that no Ukrainian will choose to live under his bandit rule unless forced to do so at the barrel of his gun. The consequences of Putin's war of aggression will be horrendous and tragic for the people of Ukraine, but also for the people of Russia, who have been plunged into chaos by this violent elite, who have stolen their wealth, stolen their chance of democracy, and are trying to steal their future. But we must prepare ourselves for difficulties here, Mr. Mayor. We will face economic pain as we free Europe again from dependence on Russian gas and Russian oil. But the British public have always been willing to make a sacrifice to defend democracy on our continent, and we will again. The consequences of Putin's actions will be felt throughout the world, but I fear for not only years, but decades to come. So to all those who believe in democracy over dictatorship, that live in the shadow of autocratic power, they are watching their worst nightmare. We must support the Ukrainian people in their fight, and we must ensure that President Putin fails. Putin will eventually learn the same lesson that all of Europe's previous tyrants have learned in the last century, that the resolve of the world is harder than they imagine, that people's desires for freedom burn brighter than he can ever imagine, that the light of liberty will prevail over his darkness. We must show President Putin he is wrong. Council, I assure us, we must prove that he is wrong. The hardest possible sanctions must be taken against the Putin regime. It must be isolated, its finances frozen, and any ability to function crippled. Mr. Mayor, this is a turning point in history. We must look back and say that this terrible month was actually where Putin doomed himself, and any plan to reassert Russian force as a meaning of controlling Eastern Europe to defeat. So, Council, we must prove him wrong. I believe we can, and in these dark hours, we must all step forward together into the light. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Reddish, would you like to say a few words, please, on the situation in the Ukraine?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure that every one of us here has been moved by what we have seen on the television and through media, and we can't help but feel for those people of the Ukraine. And I'm sure every one of us stands here alongside those people. The two previous speakers have talked about how hard it is going to be for the people of Ukraine when they come over here. And I look forward to perhaps being involved. Should we find the premises for the support group for the Ukraine here in Newcastle and across Staffordshire indeed. I don't think I'm going to say any more at this point because I think it's already been said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reddish. Is there anyone else who would like to say a few brief words about the situation in the Ukraine, please? I see one. Councillor Fox-Hewitt, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to join in recording my thoughts, prayers and solidarity with all those that have lost family and friends during the conflict. I'd also like to pay tribute to the fire service from across the region, and particularly this county, who've sent vehicles and equipment to Ukraine in a great show of solidarity. And lastly, my wife and I have also registered with Homes for Ukraine to offer to house a family fleeing the conflict. And I would hope that many others in this chamber will also consider doing the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox-Hewitt. Thank you all to the members that have spoken about the terrible situation, which we all hope will reach a resolution soon. I would ask all members to now stand and observe a minute's silence to reflect on the sad losses and turmoil caused by the invasion of the Ukraine. Thank you. Would members and members of the public please take the seats? Thank you. Members, as you know, this is our last council meeting of the municipal year. I am aware that some councillors will not be standing for re-election in May, so I think it is appropriate to invite each group leader to say a few words at this time. The councillors who are not seeking re-election are, in alphabetical order, Jennifer Cooper, John Cooper, Alison Gardner, Graham Hutton, Tony Kieran, Helena Maxfield, Mark Olszewski, Bert Proctor, Marion Reddish, Kyle Robinson, Amelia Rout and June Walklate. Councillor Tagg, can I invite you to say a few words of thanks to our retiring members, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, 12 councillors there are retiring this time, but I always said before at this stage when we're at the last meeting, the electorate may decide to retire more of us in the next few weeks, and we don't know what's going to happen. But these 12 members, some of them long-serving members, have decided to stand down, and I'm not going to say I've done it myself, but I asked for a year count to be done, and collectively we have 124 years service from those councillors, and particularly one is 35 years service on her own, and that's Councillor June Walklate. So that's a lifetime, isn't it, really, and a life sentence to be on this council. And the vast experience she's, of all those years on the council, the changes, she must have seen at least 2 council offices, etc., and all of that, and goodness knows what. I think is a testament. Just for the Conservative group members first who are retiring, I pay tribute to John Cooper, former mayor, of course, as well, and also Jennifer Cooper, who's just done 1 term with us, but has been really enthusiastic councillor during those terms on the planning committee, etc., and working for a ward. Graham Hutton, who's been with us for 3.5 years, I think. And anybody that's met Graham knows that he's dedicated to the roles he had, whether it's on licensing or whether it's questioning the cabinet on full council, etc. Helena Maxfield, thank you to Helena, because she was a cabinet member and also being a chair of the scrutiny committee as well. So thank you for your time. And then last but not least, Bert Proctor, who I've found to become a good friend and also a good colleague and an advisor over the years. And I think he hasn't been in the most well health over the last couple of years or so, particularly not the last 6 months. I'm really pleased he's here tonight to come to his last meeting. I'd like to thank him personally for all the advice he's given me and support throughout this. And I'm really pleased in the end he's become to the Conservative group, which he did in November. We've been waiting a few years for that, and thank you for that, Bert. From the Labour group, a number of people there. First of all, I'll go for the 2 former group leaders, starting with Carl Robinson. Of course, Carl came on the council, I believe, in 2010, so that's a long time ago as well. And again, a dedicated member for Kids Grove, and I wish him all the best in his new exploits, hopefully, and where he's moving to over the years. I'm sure he won't be long before he's back in some sort of political position somewhere, and wish him all the best with that. Same with Tony, of course, who spent the time of a group leader here, and I thank him for particularly at the beginning of the COVID crisis, etc., when that was kicking off. And then Carl took over as the leader as well, for the support they gave me and the other group leaders during that period. And then we've got Alison and Amelia as well, not here this evening, but again, 4-year terms or plus, I think, for Amelia. So these people have paid their time on the council, haven't they, and decided that that's enough for them. But and last but not least, Mark Olszewski. I've had my run-ins with Mark over the years as we've tussled over Maybanks and Wolfstantons and county seats, but I've always seen him to be fair and hard-working. I'm sure it won't be the last we'll see of Mark on the council, I'm sure. And then finally to the Lib Dem group, and the 2 members who are currently their councillors are standing down, and I'd like to pay tribute to Marion Reddish. Again, I've had many tussles in Thistlebury area on county seats and borough issues, but we've always worked together, which I think is the key thing, and we've always had what we wanted to get for our community. I think both of us have been shouting out about Wallace Quarry for so many years. We both sat on that liaison committee. We both seen the effects it's had on the community over many years, and we've seen that come to head over the last 2 years. And we've both been, fighting for the EA to do something about this, and we're carrying on that fight now. And the whole council and the whole borough wishes them to do something about and sort this operator out. So thank you, Marion, and all the best for your future. And then June, 35 years is, as I said, is a massive thing. And I think representing Thistlebury, your name on the ballot was always going to secure a big vote for you on your record. So congratulations on that, and may you enjoy your retirement, and I'm sure we won't see you in town and in the community. So thank you to all of those, Mr. Mayor, and that's my comments, and good luck to those who aren't standing, and the election is coming and we'll see what happens there.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Stubbs, would you like to say a few words, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, a lot of what just to echo what's been said by the leader of the council, to see 124 years of experience to walking out of this building is actually, it's heartbreaking. But at the same time, you can do nothing but wish those councillors all the very best as they move on to their new exploits. Just from a Labour point of view, Alison Gardner, obviously the councillor for Crackley and Red Street, she's always been my sort of environmental go-to, and anything scientific as well. I know I can pick up a phone, so that will be sorely missed. Mark Olszewski, public protection, he's my go-to guy there, and everybody within the group. Mark's been here longer than I have, and I'm sure I'll still make use of Mark going forward in the future. I've still got your phone number, so yeah, you can change that as much as you want, but I'll be able to track you down. Amelia, really strong union background, and I was very pleased to use her in the past, very strong on staffing, but she also had the parks. When I served on the cabinet with her, she was responsible for the parks of Newcastle. So I was really, really respectful of what Amelia brought to the meeting. But I've left the two gents till last. Tony Kieran, we've served together both as leader, as just on cabinet, and actually side by side as normal councillors, so which we've held all sort of roles. I think Tony's record for public service is second to none. Obviously a candidate for the Police and Crime Commissioner in the past as well. His knowledge of community safety, he's forgotten more about that than most people in this room will ever learn. And again, he will be somebody that I will still lean on despite him leaving this chamber. Just because the knowledge is, it's not replaceable. So I hope Tony will still pick up the phone. But most importantly, from a Labour point of view, and from my point of view within Torquay Butt Lane, the loss of Kyle Robinson is devastating to not only myself, the group, but also the residents across Torquay Butt Lane. Kyle's been a councillor since 2010. He has been the beating heart of Torquay Butt Lane for the last decade. I think we used to be mocked as Kodak Kyle, and we actually used to like that because it meant that actually he was there. You know, you could only be mocked and having your picture taken if you were actually at events and doing various things like the garden and making sure green spaces were saved. So Kyle and I will be friends forever. I am so respectful of what he's done. I echo Simon's thoughts that I'm sure I'll see his name on a ballot somewhere in Nottinghamshire in the very near future. And please ask, because we'll be coming across to help you get your post. With regard to the administration and the Lib Dem members, and with all genuine affection, a lot of experience walking out of this room. June, with your 35 years, Marion has always been somebody I could speak to, and John Cooper, and again, what a wonderful mayor as well. Just it was somebody that quiet word. When the insults were flying in the chamber, just a look from John or that quiet word before or after a meeting was more than enough to rein my horses in, and I'm sure it wasn't just me. To go through everybody else, Jennifer, Graham, a one-hit wonder, but what a wonder he was while he was here. I hope that he keeps involved. I'm sure noticing how many candidates he's the agent for will keep you busy at the very least straight after the election. So thank you for doing that. And Bert, obviously, Bert and I spent a lot of time together over the years, and I'm sure we will over various cricket pitches around Audley in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. Councillor Reddish, would you like to say a few words, please? I'm sure you would.
Thank you. It's only dawned on me that Julie and I between us have done 60 years, which is almost half of the numbers of the hours being quoted. But I particularly want to say a huge thank you to June. June has always been my friend, and I don't actually remember a time when I didn't know June as the person who helped me, as the person who encouraged me. But more than that, as the person who was passionate, deeply passionate about the people of Thistlebury and how she could help them. And that will be a lasting memory for me, June. And I very much thank you from the bottom of my heart. I believe sometimes that doors close, and it's not always the door that you want to close, but there are many more that will open. And June, I look forward to hearing about all the projects that you're going to do in the future, because I know, June, that you're not going to sit back and do nothing. So I personally say thank you. From a personal note, I looked down that list and I could say something about every one of those on that list, but I'm not going to, because it's all been said before. Each one of those people I hold in high esteem for different reasons. And I wish them all well and look forward, like Jude, to see what we all do in the future. I'm sure we're all going to be working for our respective parties. Some of you know that I now have property in Wales, and they have already approached me to do some work for them. And I look forward to that too. But my heart will always be in Newcastle, and my home will always be in Newcastle. So thank you to everybody for their support over many, many years. And I'm sure June would want to echo that.
Thank you, Councillor Reddish. Members, I have two more short announcements to make. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone who attended or supported my charity ball on Friday, the 25th of March. Under challenging economic circumstances, we raised £1,380 towards my charity fund. So thank you for that. Secondly, I've been made aware that this evening's meeting will be the last meeting for one of our mace bearers, Angela Mayer, who is standing down after 5 years' service. Members, please join me in a round of applause. And I wish Angela all the best for the future and thank her for her dedication and service to the Borough Council over the last 5 years. Thank you. And on that note, members, it is now a good time to introduce and welcome Angela's replacement as mace bearer, Jenny Otter, who is here with us this evening. Welcome, Jenny, and thank you for taking on this role. Concludes my announcements, members, so I now move to the rest of the agenda. Hang on a second. We move to agenda item 5, receipt of a petition. We are to receive a petition from the Save Our St. Peter's campaign group. A copy of a letter explaining what the petition is about can be found on page 11 to 13 of your agenda. An amended version of that letter has been tabled this evening. Members, Sue Beeston will be presenting the petition. Please come forward, Miss Beeston, to the public speakers table and press the button on the microphone when you are ready to begin speaking. You may begin speaking when the light on the microphone switches on, and you will have 5 minutes into in which to speak regarding the petition. Members, once Ms. Beeston has presented the petition, I will allow up to 15 minutes for a debate on how we should respond to the petition.
Hello, I'm presenting a petition on behalf of Save St Peter's Group. I'm presenting it on behalf of Wayne Hooby, who is actually not in the country at the moment. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about his group, if that's okay. Wayne and his wife set up a group to, upon finding that the premises of St Peter's were going to be sold and weren't going to be able to be used by the community anymore, they set up a group and they got banners together, leaflets together, set up a website, and they managed to get 500 signatures for their petition from people in the Westlands. He went door to door to do this. That's quite a large number. When I'm talking about the Westlands, I'm talking about the original Westlands estate, not the entire ward. I'm part of a sort of sister group that was set up to have the church hall become an asset of community value. We set up a group to prevent the church from being sold and give time to the community to actually raise the funds so that we could keep it within the community. The group was set up in January with the help of Friends of the Guildhall. So it was set up with the help of Hilary Jones and Jeremy Lefroy. So we are a genuine cross-party group. We received our advice from James Butler of the Cooperative Party, and we applied for the ACV in January. I think it was January the 24th. We asked for the help of many councillors who are in this room at the moment, and you all helped us out. You contacted Simon Sowerby, who was our contact, and we got the ACV through in less than 2 weeks. It can take up to 8 weeks, but had it, the premises would have been auctioned. So I thank you for helping us with that and speeding the application along. We have genuine cross-party support. We have the support of the Labour Party, the Green Party, the Lib Dems, our own councillors, Simon and Mark, and Aaron Bell. There are several groups who are interested in purchasing the hall, but at the moment, the Methodist Church will not liaise with them. Wayne has been dealing with the Seventh-day Adventists. I've been dealing with a Muslim group from the hospital who would like to buy it, and the Redeemed Church of God. At the moment, my group is the only group the Methodists will liaise with, but what they've said to us basically is that it's going to auction for the highest price. They won't negotiate a sale with us, and we don't feel it's ethical for us to try to raise money to be put into that situation, really. And there have been lots of instances where this has happened recently, and the community groups have not gained the premises, such as one in Sheffield called Knoll Top. They raised 25% over the asking price, and it was still sold to a developer. So what we'd like your help with is to save this for the community. So some of the things that you could do, you could actually contact the Methodist Church on our behalf. Set up a task force to help us raise money. I think if you look at your letter, there's some more details on that, but involving the leader of the council, people who would help us bid, people who would help us with the marketing. It's all detailed on there, what we'd like you to do. Finally, you could consider purchasing the premises and leasing them back to us. The premises our estate is designed by the architect who designed Bourneville. The only place where a community building can exist is where St Peter's is. There's no more space. and it's been very well used over the years by lots of groups, only stopping with COVID. It would be a great loss to our community to not have that. And ourselves and the church groups, we've all been liaising, working together. We've talked about the possibility of having a multi-faith centre, but what we all want to do is to save it for the community and have it as a community facility. We hope that you can help us achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beeston. Councillor Simon Tagg, as leader of the council and ward councillor, I am going to come to you to open the debate and make a proposal to council. I will then go to councillors Holland and Heeson as fellow ward councillors before opening the debate to other members. Over to you, please, Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, can I thank Sue for presenting this, and also for those Wayne and others that have got the petition together. And I think it's a testament to the work. As Sue said, it's from the old Westlands estate. 500 signatures a minute. It says obviously we need to get to 200 to bring the full council. Well, completely blown through that, and vast majority of those 500 are from in that ward area, which is a testament to people's probably love of this building. And it's a building that's been there since all them years, and many people have lived on the Westlands estate for many years, and it's part of their heritage. And they've got an interest in that, and I've used it in the past. So I think it's a valid petition. Sometimes we've had petitions where we've had to go through them and found there's not enough signatures to bring something to full council. This one is not that, and this is a clear one we can bring. I think those uses which are touched in the documentations we received, and as part of the petition, the local clubs, the brownies, taekwondo classes, yoga classes, choir groups, art and painting classes, all have had their uses in St. Peter's, as well as music classes, weddings, funeral wakes, music exams, and also not forgetting a polling station, which is very topical now. And I've spent many times going into there and saying hello to the polling staff on the day they've had the heaters on, etc., because it's been a cold day, and that's been used by the community, and along with the other church hall, which is again is going as well over the other side of the road, has been used as the two polling stations on the Westlands there. As Sue pointed out, the asset of community interest was given by the council. I think that was done very quickly and efficiently, and had local ward member support. And I thank the chief executive for progressing that very quickly, which has started a 6-month period where the community can work together to try and raise enough funds to purchase this. But I think, as Sue has pointed out, and it says in the petition, as it says in the covering document, the issue is that obviously the position of the Methodist Church. And I think they, as Sue has pointed out, and as in the documentation, they are able to take a lower bid for this if it's for a community use, and this is their decision to do that. And I think it's ours as a council really to unite and ask them to do that, I think. And what I'd like to do is to propose a motion, Mr. Mayor, if I could, and that this council asks our chief executive to write to the Methodist Church to inform them of the level of community support for the campaign to save St. Peter's, and to urge them to reconsider or to consider accepting a bid from the community, even if that means getting a lower capital receipt for the site. And further to that, and this responds to something that Sue mentioned, that ward members convene a meeting at the first available opportunity between the various community groups that are representing the people of the Westlands on this, along with our ward councillors, and meet with the superintendent of the Methodist North Staffordshire Circuit to discuss the importance of continuing community use on this site. I'd like to move that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Holland, would you like to speak and second the motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would very much welcome the petition that's in front of us this evening, and thanks to Sue for presenting it. I think for the benefit of other members who perhaps aren't as familiar with it, a number of different groups and individuals have all come forward at this time to say that they wish to retain
St Peter's and the Church Hall as a community venue for future use. And as councillors, if people are asking us, what do you campaign for? What do you stand for? Well, happy to endorse the community and what they want. And this is clearly something that residents on the Westlands estate are very passionate about, hence the number of signatures on the petition and the number of individuals who have come together to make their case. I think as a council, we're limited in what we can do, but of course we have already designated the venue an asset of community value. As the leader said, our thanks to the Chief Executive for progressing that as rapidly as possible. And I hope that we're able to be persuasive in any way that we can in dealing with the Methodist Church. As the owners of the property, they are entitled to dispose of it, but I would hope that they are accessible to arguments that would lead, we hope, to the retention of this building for community use and perhaps also for faith use in the future. And that is something that as a church, I would hope that they will consider. I'm sure they are, if not listening, going to review this, and of course any future contact that we have with the current owners of the building. But I'm very happy to second formally the motion that Councillor Tagg has moved, and I will look forward to participating in the meeting that we hope to have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. I come to Councillor Heasom. Would you like to speak, Councillor Heasom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think there's a lot more I can add to this that my colleagues haven't already said, but I am aware of how important it is, particularly in the community. And in the past, I have used the hall as a member of the Seroptimists and former president of the Seroptimists on a regular basis. It would be a great loss if this disappeared out of the community. So I would agree to endorse anything that's coming out of this, the motion, and welcoming the petition.
Thank you, Councillor Heasom. I understand Councillor Reddish would like to speak. Councillor Reddish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Those of us who are familiar with church terminology will be very familiar with the phrase, "May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable." And that is never more relevant than in the next minute when I speak. And I would like to speak make a few comments about this agenda item, and in particular, the letter that was sent to us to accompany us and put us in the picture about St Peter's. Those of you who know me well will also know that I'm quite well equipped to speak on this because I have been a family member who has worshipped and been very much part of the community of St Peter's Methodist Church for well over 50 years, probably nearer to 60 years. And I can categorically tell you that the closing of the church was a very, very painful experience for the congregation. And that decision to close was not taken lightly at all. There were many, many discussions on it. Just to fill you in a little bit, very soon after the church membership decided that they couldn't, for financial reasons and because of COVID reasons, continue to stay open. To put insult to injury, the main water tank in the loft burst and in the hall area, which actually meant that 3 ceilings and 3 floors and every wall in the building was flooded and dampened. And I had the unenviable task of meeting with the insurance people. And it became very, very evident very early on that it was going to cost thousands, and I mean thousands, to actually put this building, the inside of the building, into good repair that would be remotely of use to any community group or anybody else who wanted to build it. And possibly, they were saying, and I have spoken to somebody today about it, that the work to be done to make the building usable again would actually be more than the cost of the property outside. And we've had figures quoted at us tonight about the cost or the value of the building outside. So I just want to put you in the picture that it's not just about buying the church premises, it's about the enormous amount of work, and I'm not exaggerating, to put it into something like working order. And when I say about the flood damage, I, for a week and a bit, was up to my waist in stagnant water from all the flood water that had come down. In the letter that was sent to us with our agenda, the one that's got the black ring round it, and I realise it has been amended tonight, and I've looked carefully at the amendment. It does say that groups were told by email that items would be left outside for them to collect if wanted. Otherwise, they would be disposed of. Unless I'm suffering from amnesia, that certainly was not what happened. And every group was met with, had conversations, telephone calls, and yes, some emails. But everybody in that building who uses that building was contacted personally. And the only group that left any items outside were the play group. And that was because their play toys were down in the basement, under the stage as it happened. And they were floating toys. They were damaged. And they took out as many of the toys as they could, but there were some that they just felt that they could no longer use. But they wanted to give the community the benefit. So they asked if they could actually put them on the church grassy area at the end of the school days, so that parents who were going to collect their school children from Langdale and Friarswood could collect them and use them if they wanted. And so I just want to put that into perspective, that certainly the church did do what they could to engage with the groups, and the cubs and the guides tents that were right up in the rafters, we helped to move for them. And so it was with great surprise to many who lived so close to the church to suddenly see huge banners and posters appear near the property and around the immediate streets of the Westlands. And certainly some have contacted, well, quite a few have contacted me to say that they didn't really understand what they were signing, because at the time, I think nobody would be opposed to a community centre, the church being used for a community centre. But they were ignorant of the fact that it wasn't just the outside the church they were buying. It would be the fact that the building had to be in good state.
Councillor Reddish, I'm not interrupting you.
I'm finishing
but
now.
I'm asking you to, thank you.
So St Andrew's Anglican Church is 50 metres across the road. And it's having huge building extensions at the moment. And they are more than willing and are looking forward to any community groups joining them, and they have ample accommodation. And certainly all the groups who meet at St Peter's will be very welcome. And so I do find the tone of that letter disappointing. And I would suggest, and perhaps it's a suggestion on the amendment, that if people are interested in supporting this Sue and her community group, that they actually pay a site visit and just have a look for themselves at the interior of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reddish. Councillor Stubbs, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's thrown me a little bit, because I thought this would be a united room. First things first, thank you to Sue for bringing this tonight, and especially to the chair and his wife for putting the briefing together tonight. I was going to go down the path that in such a turbulent time, 4 weeks before an election, the first two items on the agenda tonight had brought the council together. Well, obviously not completely together, but at the same time, I think the vast majority in this room are more than happy to support Sue and the Westlands Community Hall Group, and obviously the wider Westlands Community Hall CIC. I think it goes without saying that local councillors will be active and trying to get involved as much as they can. But what is even more pleasing to everybody, not only in the Westlands, but across Newcastle, is that councillors from all sides of the political spectrum have been involved in this. And I hope that moving forward, whatever the results over the next 4, 8, these weeks going forward, that we can still, as a council, support community groups. There are far too many community centres and halls and buildings that we are losing. Councillor Williams is just reminding me of, Nutton and places like that, and where community buildings have been lost and never replaced. They were going to be replaced. So it falls to us as a council body to make sure that we support this as much as we possibly can. I am really pleased that I'm aware of Labour members that have supported this. I'm now aware that there are obviously Conservative members that have supported this. And I hope that they continue to do that. The Labour group tonight is more than happy with the full-throated support of the group tonight to this motion. Mr. Mayor, I do question why not everybody in this room will do that, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. I think we've had all the relevant comments regarding this item. So I go back to Councillor Simon Tagg. Would you like to say a few words before moving to a vote, Councillor Tagg?
Just very quickly, thank you. And thank you for all the comments that have been made. And I believe we'll have support for the motion tonight. I think Marion's making some valid points as well of the difficulties of getting this off the ground. That's why I think that meeting with ward councillors and the campaign, various campaign groups and individuals, and also the Methodists is the first step of that, isn't it, to try and look what we can do. I think also that letter from the Chief Executive stating that we've received this petition tonight and we do support, that this should remain as a community. He says we have lost them, whether it's council owned or anybody else's. We've lost these over across the area over the years, and whether it's in Porthill, whether it's in Nutton or wherever it is, and whoever owns these buildings, whether they're churches or councils, you have to fight for these buildings, and I think that's the case here, and we will do that if this motion is supported tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. I'd like to put the proposal to the vote. So all those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. I think that's rather unanimous. Thank you all. The motion is carried. Agenda item 6, the calendar of meetings. We now turn to the next substantive item of business on this evening's agenda, which is to accept the calendar of meetings for 2022 to 2026. A copy of the report can be found on pages 15 to 43 of your agenda pack. I will ask Councillor Simon Tagg to introduce item 6 to the council and to move the recommendation on page 15 of your agenda pack. I understand Councillor Sweeney intends to second that recommendation. Councillor Simon Tagg, will you please now introduce the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll introduce the report and move the recommendation. I think this in 2018, after the elections there, we put forward a 4-year calendar. That was the first time that had happened as council. Usually we agreed one every year, but we thought, let's get these things in the diary straight away so that councillors can plan ahead. But I think I'd just give thanks to Jeff Durham, who's done the crunching on this to ensure we don't have clashes and cabinets don't happen just before councils or whatever, because it can be a bit of a pain putting them all together. So for 1 year is bad enough, but for doing for 4 years is quite a task. So I'd like to thank you, Jeff, for doing those. And we can endorse these tonight, I think, and we'll have a calendar of meetings to take us up to 2026. I move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Stephen Sweeney, do you wish to second the
Yeah, thank you,
recommendation?
Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to say thank you for Jeff for organising this, because it's 4 years worth of meetings is a bit of a job and a half. But I'm very happy to second it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Members, we now move to the debate on this item. Can I ask that you indicate by raising a hand if you wish to speak?
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy for us to move to the vote.
That's exactly what I was going to propose, Councillor Stubbs.
No one wishes to speak. We put the proposal to the vote. All those in favour? Again, unanimous. Thank you all. The next substantive item of business is the local elections fees and charges. This is agenda item 7 and is at page 45 to 50 of the agenda pack. I understand Councillor Simon Tagg intends to move the recommendations on page 45 and that Councillor Sweeney will be seconding. Councillor Tagg, will you please now introduce the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll do that and move the recommendations that the council notes the proposed election fees for 22-23. I think vitally important that we have these in place with all the polling stations to man and the votes to take place, so that we can have democracy working in the borough and get some town results on the Friday after the election for the borough. And I believe it's the parishes on the Saturday. Yes, I'm not involved in those myself, so we've got to a double count. We've also got a referendum, I believe, as well in one of our rural seats as well. So a heavy time for our election staff, and this will help us to progress that forward with setting the election fees for 22-23. I move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Sweeney, do you wish to second the recommendation?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to a debate on this item. Can I ask you indicate if you wish to speak by raising your hand, please? Councillor Stubbs, please.
I'm happy to move to the vote, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. In that case, we move to a vote. All those in favour? Rather unanimous again. Thank you all. The next substantive item of business is notification of an urgent decision taken by the Chief Executive in relation to the acceptance of a funding bid for social housing decarbonisation. This is agenda item 8 and is at pages 51 to 56 of the agenda. I understand Councillor Simon Tagg intends to move the recommendation on page 51 and that Councillor Sweeney will be seconding. Councillor Simon Tagg, will you now please introduce the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you did it in your introduction remark. Really, a fairly simple thing here. We wanted to make this decision very quickly so we could get this funding out and moving, and that's what we did, and that's what the report is about. I move the recommendation that we note the Chief Executive's decision.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Sweeney, do you wish to second the recommendation, please?
Once again, Mr. Mayor, I've delight in seconding. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, can I take it that the urgent decision is noted, please? Noted. Thank you. The next item of business on this evening's agenda is the leader's statement. A copy can be found on pages 57 to 59 of your agenda pack. I will now invite members to put questions to the leader or relevant cabinet portfolio holder on each paragraph of the statement. I will take 3 questions at a time. If I could remind members, this is not a debate. Once the leader has responded, there is no right for members to reply. Members, paragraph 1, cabinet meetings, excluding anything that is covered in other paragraphs of the statement. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 1? I see no one. Thank you. Members, paragraph 2, war in the Ukraine. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 2? I see 1. Would you like to speak? And would you like to speak once you pick your microphone up, Andrew? Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and apologies for the destruction I'm beginning to cause. Yes, I'd like to ask the leader if is he able to update us all on how many people in the borough have put their names forward to be sponsors for displaced people from the Ukraine. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Would you like to respond, Councillor Tagg?
Okay, will do. Thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Parker. Of course, we know the government opened the scheme for the Ukrainian obviously relief, and also possibly for people to come over to this country to seek refuge. And as of the moment, there are 20 people have put forward to be sponsors of in the borough, and there's hundreds across the county. And I think that just shows that people, as we talked about earlier, are really concerned about what's going on and want to offer accommodation and a refuge to people that are fleeing war. And I think just also we as a district council have a role to play in that. When those people do arrive, we have funding from the government to ensure payments and subsistence costs, and also payments to the person or the families that take in the people from Ukraine. And we also have a checks to carry out on these properties as well as a district council. But we're working very closely with the county council on this, who also have a key role on this. So I think this is the start of this process. How long will this war go on? We don't know. It is wreaking havoc across Ukraine, and we know many millions of people have already fled there, and some of them are making their way here to the county of Staffordshire and also to our borough. And we will do everything we can as a borough council to make their obviously their lives here, as they come from with trauma and goodness knows what, and that people have offered space in their homes here, and as we've heard tonight, even within this room, councillors have done that. So I think we will do all we can to ensure those people get to a place of safety and are looked after when they are there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. We move to paragraph 3, Wally's Quarry update. Do members have any comments or questions on this? I see 2, Councillor Holland, Councillor Sweeney. Councillor Holland, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I very much welcome the update that's in front of us. As at every meeting, we should all restate our loathing for the site operator at Wally's Quarry, and our continued disappointment on behalf of our residents that the situation is as bad as ever, and in many cases worse. I can see that the arrows are all pointing in the wrong direction on the latest report that I have seen from the regulator. Would the leader agree with me that it is very disappointing that the site operator and their legal team are using every trick in the book to delay the court proceedings that this authority has brought? And would he reassure the council that we are doing, as an authority, everything that is within our power to stop the stink?
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Councillor Sweeney, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I read this, the third paragraph absolutely shocked me. UK HSA, so it's a health security agency. They state that any risk to long-term lifetime physical health is likely to be small, not non-existent, but small. However, they cannot exclude a risk to health from pollutants in the area where exposure continues above the long-term health-based guidance value. Therefore, UK HSA continues to strongly recommend that all appropriate measures are taken to reduce the off-site odours from the landfill site. So the government agency are actually saying that this gas is poisoning people. It's not just unpleasant. It's not just rotten eggs being smelt in the morning, whatever. It actually says here it could do you harm. And what an absolutely appalling situation that our residents have got to live in and have this threat hanging over their lives. This paragraph absolutely blew my head off when I read it. And for somebody to actually admit that people are living with poisonous gas, not unpleasant gases, poisonous gases, is absolutely appalling. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Councillor Julie Cooper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Totally endorse everything that my colleagues have said. And not only that, we've got the air quality. The air quality over there is absolutely appalling. I mean, we've got an air quality law out. So why can't we have it all over? Not only just in certain areas for cars and fumes. We have got the problem at the quarry. So that should also be taken into account with the air quality. Thank you.
Would you like to respond to those comments, Councillor Tagg?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think as it says in my report there, there's, as Councillor Sweeney's pointed out and others, the situation hasn't improved. And I think, we had the awful stink over Christmas, and we've had it over the last few weeks as well as it comes back. And complaints have been going up through the roof again. Week ending 14th of the 3rd, 224 reports to the council, odour complaints. Week ending 21st of the 3rd, 412, and then week ending 28th of the 3rd, 243. These are big numbers. These are like going back to the very depths of the stink last spring. And I think we're in that now. We're going in that direction. And I think it's, we talk about it. Stephen talks about UK Health Security Agency. They are beginning to say these things now, and I wish they'd say them even more, and I wish they'd make more statements about this, and I wish they'd get DEFRA to listen and the minister to listen, just as our MP is trying to do that, and as the council is trying to do, because we've really given up on the EA at the moment, the Environment Agency. We've seen, I think, regulatory failure of them, and as we saw in the last couple of days, announcements of now Category 1 breaches. We haven't had Category 1 breaches before. We're having them now on Wally's Quarry. The scale and the list of these breaches, and yet the EA will not suspend the permit, will not move forward on where they need to go on this. And again, we are, as it says there, we've tried to complain to the Environment Agency and got rebuffed by their chief executive. So now we've gone to the Parliamentary and Health Ombudsman to escalate that complaint. And that goes back to our original discussion last March here in this room when we had the emergency council meeting, which was supported across the board by all councillors of this authority. And, this is, we're doing what we can in that regard. When it comes to the abatement notice, I think, yes, our chief executive put a statement out on the 5th of April to clarify that point there, is that, of course, we thought we were having the trial to start in June, but because of the requirement for exchanging more information, the courts have obviously allowed more time for that. It is a court process. We don't influence it. We as councillors certainly don't influence it, and our officers don't, and our QCs can only put a view forward, and the courts give their view and make a decision on that. So the pre-trial review will take place on the 30th of September, and the final hearings are currently scheduled for the 24th of October and expected to take up to 4 weeks. And the council will be putting its case strongly as the evidence it has gathered. We believe will make the case for that statutory nuisance. So we're not giving up, and I think as we go forward, we've put money aside as a council for this. We've got political will behind it of all councillors, no matter what group will be running this council after the election. And we will pursue it on behalf of our residents, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. I'll take the next 3 questions in the following order. Councillor John Williams, Councillor David Jones, Councillor Derek Huckfield. John Williams, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good report. It's not mentioning words, to the point. But it's sad in a sense, not this report, but people feel the council are not doing enough. You know, we've had reports and of members across parties, what they're doing, and we can only do so much. It seems that the Environmental Agency are Teflon coated. They are to blame, but morely the people who run Bolly's Quarry are to blame in the first instance. But the Environmental Agency, a government agency there to protect, should be there to protect the residents throughout the country, especially what's happening by the smell. And I don't know what we can do, publicise the amount of work, but people still can smell the tipping and what's in there, and they want it stopped. And they're so frustrated that, of course, we put our heads above the parapet and we have to take the flak. But, you know, we've done as much as we can, what we're doing. But I think, again, I'll say that the Environmental Agency should have done a lot more and should be doing a lot more. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor David Jones, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is incredibly disappointing that once again we're here and that our residents have to deal with, as Councillor Sweeney made out in his comments, that residents are dealing with poisonous situation that it has admitted could have a long-term impact on their health, which is disgusting, quite frankly. But this is a story that's been going on for a long time with the Environment Agency and with this site. A number of us as councillors have been raising this issue for a long time. And right at the onset of my involvement with this, the Environment Agency wouldn't even accept that there was a smell. And I can remember many a meeting where we felt as if perhaps they were on a different planet or had never visited the site, because we could all smell it. But for some reason, the Environment Agency couldn't smell it and the operator couldn't smell it, which was came as quite a shock. And then we raised, with the support of some residents, some concerns about perhaps non-permittable waste being tipped at the site. The Environment Agency denied that was happening. They claimed to have investigated, and we have found recently potential evidence that perhaps that wasn't correct. The complaints about the site rose. The Environment Agency responded by increasing the tipping licence at the site, against objections from local councillors, objections from local residents, and in fact, criticism from the Environment Agency that local residents had pressed other residents to object because the same objection letter was used, which quite frankly was the Environment Agency trying to cover for their own inadequacies in this. And then they're told by the court that their failure to regulate that site was not protecting the health of a young lad. And how did they respond to that? Anybody who is human, who has any level of emotion, any level of responsibility in public service, would realize that that's the point at which you really have to change your tune. And they legally dodged their way out of that. Legally dodged their way out of that. The Environment Agency has entirely failed the residents of this borough, all the time taking money from us. Money from all of us here, money from the residents who are being poisoned by the gas in their homes to not do their job. Now, to me, that's an absolute dereliction of duty. And at some point, there is going to be a named inquiry on this, and the Environment Agency is going to come out of it absolutely stinking, almost as bad as the tip, hopefully more so, because the way they have failed our residents, the way that they have enabled this to affect their health, the way that they have failed and dodged out of protecting the health of vulnerable children in our communities is absolutely disgraceful. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Same with Councillor Jones, as you spoke before him. I think the plan he put forward was a good plan. It's one that I endorsed, and it had those 3 steps, didn't it? Which was, start the capping, and also start to take off as much gas as possible, and then also to deal with the leachate problem. And I think the EA then approached. We'll get some. We've talked about it so much in here. The POSI shell. Don't laugh, everybody. We talked about POSI shell was going to be the latest thing that was going to cap it and stop the stink. Now that's decaying and is not going to use that again now. They've put more gas wells in, haven't they, to draw off more gas? And I believe more gas is being drawn off probably now than ever before on that site, but we're still getting a massive stink. So there's actually more gas being produced. So they've got to up that again on the back of Derek's proposal said to do that. But then there's the leachate. They haven't really addressed the leachate problem at all. And I believe that is a serious thing which the EA should address. Now, there's ways you have to balance off taking out the dirty water, which is the leachate, and also controlling the gas so you get an equilibrium on the site. It's very complicated. I'm not a professional in this. I don't even say that I am, but we do have professionals who the council is talking to, and we must put a case together that, the EA have failed. We were already trying to talk to the government, and there is going to be a meeting with ministers later, and we must say to them that they need to start to go beyond the EA because they have failed. And I believe it is to close the site, cap it off, and start the restoration phase earlier. That's my view. And using the measures which Derek has put forward in his plan, and implement those fully, and also deal with the leachate, which I don't think they are dealing with at the moment. So that's my comments on that, Mr. Mayor. And I think really, we as a council have got to keep pressing with our MP as members. The community is angry. They're putting up candidates in the election. We know that. That shows the feeling. All that pressure needs to bear upon, the Environment Agency and for our, DEFRA and for ministers to go overrule the EA at the end of the day and make some decisions on this site, because this can't go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. I have one more member wishing to speak. Councillor Fox-Hewitt, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noted last week, as I'm sure many other members did, that there was some surprise inspection and enforcement notice by other partner agencies, such as I think it was VOSA, HMRC, etc. And it was surprising that there was a dramatic reduction in the number of vehicles turning up to use the site. I was just wondering, could we potentially explore setting up a meeting with those other government and partner agencies to see if we could support their efforts, and including discussions whether to use any of the finances that we've ring-fenced or our own resources to bring about some robust and sustained scrutiny and enforcement by those agencies, because it did seem quite effective in one way at reducing the usage of the site. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fox-Hewitt. Councillor Tagg, would you like to respond, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think just on that point, yes, I think that's what we need to do. And we were having discussions with the County Council particularly, who obviously have got the planning permit for that. And also we need to talk to those other people, because that was very effective. We've had stories of vehicles being, suddenly finding out about this and then being, being off on an industrial park waiting for it to end so that they can come in. Something's not right on that site, and we need to get to the bottom of it. But again, the EA, the Environment Agency, they have the keys to open the door on this for us, and they must use them, and they must use them more vigorously for our residents.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. We now move on to paragraph 4, the Rycroft Blueprint. Do members have any comments or questions on this paragraph, please? Councillor Barry Panther, followed by Councillor John Williams, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to commend this council on the blueprint, which clearly shows the progress is being made on the Rycroft development. Will the leader agree with me that this will make a real difference to the town centre businesses who are wanting to bring in more people to shop? Will he also agree that it is a shame that this wasn't taken by the previous Labour administration instead of their failed student and retail schemes?
Thank you, Councillor Panther. Councillor John Williams, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it's only a blueprint, but a mixed development. I personally would prefer more housing. And a question from the residents, really. of Newcastle that aspire housing new headquarters along with the housing development. So, Aspire have already got a headquarters not far from the town centre, and they use the Castle House to do their interviews with residents. And the housing development, I read in another report that they're over 50s. Will they be mostly social housing or will be a private apartments? And that will not in planning. We all know it's 25% of any development over a certain amount of properties, of 15% of that social housing. Well, I like to see more social housing, and I hope the leader agrees with me for this particular development. And the other question is on the car park, the proposed car park. We've already we've got a developer to work on it. Who will receive the receipts from that car parking fees? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Julie Cooper, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. If I remember correctly, when our previous administration put it on the market, they had a little meeting and a shop where they showed you all the plans of the original site that we were going to do. I asked one of the people, because I said, if you can't get any decent shops, we've got them lined up. I said, look, if you can't get a good name in here, you might as well forget it. We've got loads of shops that are shut. And do you know what he told me? If we can't get any shops, there'll be no building done. There'll be nothing done. And that is how it has stood, because they can't get the people in. That is why, and we've had it like that now, absolutely boarded up, and now we've had to demolish it now, when it could have been done better in the first place if they'd have actually considered everything apart from shops. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Would you like to respond, Councillor Tagg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First on Barry Panter's point, thank you for that. And I think it's great to see this, blueprint, which is beginning to take shape, isn't it now? And I think, it is something we can deliver. And it's something which we have, obviously, the future high street funding from the government promised us by our Prime Minister and delivered now and we've got the money and we're starting to make some moves on, as you can see in this blueprint. And I think, and Julie's touched on it and Barry touched on it, the previous scheme for that site, which was student accommodation and retail. And of course, the retail side of it had to take off or else the rest of the scheme would fail. And the retail was seen to be not what was required in the town centre. It was too big for the type of shops we want, the speciality, market shops. And it was too small for the bigger units which would want to come here for the bigger companies. So it failed. And of course, the student accommodation, we know we've got now a glut of student accommodation and half-built student accommodation in the town. So when we looked at these plans, we didn't want to go down the route of student accommodation. So moving to John Williams's comments, I think it's what we want to, as have already been touched on, is people working in the town centre. There's possibly going to be 200 people working in the Aspire HQ. There's going to be people visiting the Aspire HQ. They will all come from the bus station, have to walk through town, etc. And might use shops, might have lunch. Again, it's all about generating footfall. That's what this does. The car park is going to be there to actually replace the Midway car park, our ageing car park that has had so much money spent on it. It is a relic and a disgrace in some respects, really. And we will be demolishing that and we'll be putting young professional accommodation on there. That is the plan. And we have the money in the town deal, yet more money promised by our Prime Minister and delivered to kick that scheme off as well. The question about the car parking income, that will come through to the Borough Council because it will be a Borough Council owned car park. And I think that will generate the income off that. And it will be an EV ready car park for electric vehicles, state of the art in that respect. So I think it's brilliant proposals. This is the blueprint which we needed and which we can deliver because the money's there to kick it off. Then you talk about the York Place development. as well. And then also the town deal remake of Midway as well. And they're very exciting times for the town centre. And we've got the jigsaws falling into place, and they're all in the blueprint, which I'm very pleased that Cabinet endorsed. And I think the council should endorse it as a way forward for the Rycroft site and the town centre going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. I have one more question or comment from Councillor David Jones, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think all of us in this council will be united in the wish to see our town centre as successful as possible. We know that times have been tough, real tough for town centres over the last decade or so, with varied changes to the way people shop, people using out-of-town centres, significantly more retailers move into out-of-town locations due to more favourable business rates, rental rates, and quite often the fact that car parking at these out-of-town centres is free. So it tends to attract a significant number of visitors. I think what I'm not going to do is try and play some sort of political football between administrations, which seems to have happened tonight. I think what I'm going to say is what I've got from speaking. Strangely enough, when an election comes around, you tend to speak to quite a lot of residents. Certainly I do, quite a lot of residents across wide areas of the borough. And a lot of residents are actually quite disappointed with this plan. Disappointed because it was announced with this rather large draw into the big town deal and this money that we got in, and this 11 million, very exciting amount of money to invest in this. And what they see is a car park and a new headquarters for Aspire. Now, taking into account the comments made about increasing footfall within the town centre, which I do think is important for supporting our businesses, I do think we have to look back and remember that the last administration, the last Labour administration's plan for this town centre was to introduce retail to the site, to introduce marquee retail stores that we don't currently have within the town centre as a way also of increasing footfall. You can either increase footfall by having more people within the town centre, either through offices or through residential, or you can increase footfall by attracting people into the town centre. And quite often that attraction comes from those kind of marquee stores. Now, I acknowledge it didn't happen. I think we have to be quite grown up about it. I don't think that was a failure of the plan. I think it was the economic times that we faced. Many town centres across the country at that time were facing situations where developers were pulling out of plans because the future of the high street was very much in the air, and the future of the spend that people would bring to the high street was very much in the air. The second thing I would say is that I think we have to be quite mature in the debate about the residential units that we see within the town centre. Yes, we have had a significant number of student developments. I think it's unfair to compare that to the development that sits next to us that has gone undeveloped. I don't think that's due to lack of demand. I think that's due to a very poor developer who couldn't manage their own finances, quite frankly. But actually, we have to acknowledge that we do have a significantly large university that is continually growing. We have a second large university in the city that's continually growing, that over the next decade, there will be an increased demand for student accommodation. And quite frankly, students spend money. They will spend money within the town centre because most of these students will not be bothered about paying for parking because they already live there or they travel there by bus, and they're quite willing to spend money within the town centre. Now, I would agree, I think over 55 accommodation will also bring the kind of residents that are likely to spend money in the town centre. But I do think it's quite important that we don't turn this into a political football of my idea is better than your idea without fully understanding the context of what derails a plan or not, because this plan could easily just be derailed with certain economic factors changing, much like the previous plan did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Your response, Councillor Tagg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, thank you, Councillor Jones, for your comments. I think just initially when you did start to speak, we're talking about the viability of town centres, and it's interesting that footfall in the town centre on the third quarter of which is in the leader statement later was up 100,000 on the last non-COVID year. So that shows we've increased footfall. With working in partnership with the bid and our businesses and reviving the market, etc. So it can be done. I think my administration in 2018, when it set the council plan, got a priority first time ever in this council for a town centre for all. We felt, and I still believe, that there was too much focus on student accommodation. I still believe that would be folly to add more student accommodation at this stage with those remaining empty and half built next to us here. And I think, having we call it over 50s, we call it young professionals on the midway. We're having that town centre for all mix of all different types of age groups living here, and also the business HQ, which will be a high status building within the ring road of our town centre, which will give massive footfall to the town centre. And then that car park, which again is needed. We still need a premier car park, and this will be that in the town. And that will be obviously a feed in for the town centre for shoppers, etc. And of course, when it comes to car parking charges, we've made a step change in the last 4 years on car parking charges, bringing in the £1 after 1 o'clock, having free parking in the midway up to Christmas last year, and other initiatives as well. And we'll continue to do that. Car parking is no longer seen as a cash cow by this council just to balance the budget as it was under previous administrations. Car parking is seen as a lever actually to help people to come into the town centre, and it's used, we have to use pricing very selectively to enable people to come in, like the free on Sunday and etc., to support the markets, and also the £1 after 1, which is vitally important, so that people can come in, have a ticket, stay shop, have a meal, and even stop, pick up the car the next day before 8 a.m. So I think it's we were going in the right direction, and I think this is deliverable. I think it's pragmatically deliverable. It's not up in the sky deliverable based on, unfortunately, we talk about marquees and things. They were only a very, very small part of the plan, which failed under the previous administration. It was predicated on units that just were not viable to the type of retail that wanted to come into this area. That is a fact. There's nothing you can get wrong. That's why the retail sector pulled the plug, which meant the whole thing failed. So I think we're different this time. We have the backing, crucially, of that 11.5 million investment from the government in the town through the Future High Streets Fund, and the 23.5, some of that is going to be used in the town centre as well. So we have, a bright future and a deliverable plan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. We move to paragraph 5, Kidsgrove and Newcastle Town Deal updates. Do any members have any comments or questions, please? I see 2, Councillor Maxfield, followed by Councillor Burnett. Councillor Maxfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not a question, it's a comment. Reading this, I think the progress so far is fantastic news for Kidsgrove and its surrounding districts. The investment in the area means that Kidsgrove is no longer the forgotten town. And I'd like to give thanks to the administration and all those concerned for the work involved in helping this to come to fruition. And I look forward to seeing the end result.
Thank you. Councillor Burnett, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a member of the Town Deal Board and as a trustee of Kidsgrove Sports Centre, I just want to say that all the hard work is now coming to fruition.
Excuse me, Councillor Burnett.
Yeah.
Can't quite hear you.
No, okay. Start again. As a member of the Town Deal Board and as a trustee of Kidsgrove Sports Centre, I just wanted to say that all the hard work is now coming to fruition, and what a fantastic opportunity it is for Kidsgrove and its residents. Kidsgrove Sports Centre is now nearing completion, and I'm sure that we will all benefit immensely from this great facility, which will be used by young and old alike, and especially the swimming pool, which will be accessible for all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. Councillor Paul Waring, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just briefly say again, as a member of the Town Deal Board, I'm very pleased with the progress that's been made so far. And I also think that tribute should be given to all the consultants that we've been working with, who've been very mindful of the comments that have been made at the consultations and things, and have been willing to go back and relook at things without question. I think everything's going very well at the moment, and I hope that they manage to get the pool open for the summer holiday so the kids can use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waring. Councillor Tagg, please, your response.
Thank you. Nothing more than to endorse all the comments that have been made, and it'd be great to see the swimming pool open in the summer and the other things delivered through the Kidsgrove Town Deal and also the Newcastle Town Deal when those bids are put in.
Thank you. Councillor Holland, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Jones has tempted me, and this does follow on quite neatly from the previous item on the leader's statement. Councillor Jones is reluctant to play political football, and maybe that's because he's not very good at political football. He's so popular in Silverdale that he's picked up his political football and he's heading up the hill to stand in Kiel at the forthcoming election. And in a sense, yes, this is a debate about whose ideas are better than other people's, because our ideas are better than the Labour Party's ideas. And there is an election coming up, and that is the case that we will be seeking to make, because we remember what the Labour Party does to this borough and to its residents. We remember that they're perfectly happy with holes in the ground in our town centre. We remember what they did to the Guildhall, how that was left as a crumbling, derelict pub by a Labour administration for this party to pick up. And I double dare the Labour Party to attack the investment that is listed under this item, to say that 43.2 million investment from the government is not a good idea. Would the leader agree with me that it would be beyond our wildest imaginations for a Labour government to have given this money to our borough? Would the leader agree with me that it would be unusual for any Labour administration in this borough to be capable of securing, much less delivering, the improvements that this money is going to bring? And would the leader care at all to contrast Labour's record of managed decline in our boroughs, managed decline of our markets, and the closure of Kidsgrove Sports Centre with this administration's record of revitalising our town centres, of restoring our markets and supporting the community of Kidsgrove to reopen the sports centre?
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, please? Certainly, Councillor Huckfield.
Can I just say about Kidsgrove? First of all, when I was on the council before, right, this has been going on for quite a number of years. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, this has been going on for quite a number of years about Kidsgrove, right? And I'm really pleased that it's happened. And I was surprised when I come to read this about the money that's been investment in it. At one time when I was on the county and on the county council, right, we had Amelia Rout that was dealing with it, and she come to one meeting of the council and said that she'd acquired £1 million off the county council. After doing an investigation, it was all wrong. Nobody seemed to know anything about it. The next thing that come up, right, that I heard about after since I'd finished on the council, right, was this £6 million that she acquired. And I'd like to know exactly where this £6 million is being spent. And I think I'll ask the leader of the council that, because he might know.
Thank you, Councillor Huckfield. Any other comments, please? No? Councillor Tagg, would you like to respond, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just commenting on Councillor Huckfield. It's well known, and I was at the meeting and many members were, where a former cabinet member from the Labour group did say that there was £6 million put aside for a new sports centre for Kidsgrove. This was probably about 2016 or the 2017 time when it was closed by the previous administration. And no, I haven't found that 6 million. And I looked to my finance portfolio holder beside me, and we're still looking for it now, and we haven't found it. So that's the answer to that. I think I'm not going to repeat everything that Mark Collins said. I agree entirely with it. And I think when it comes to Kidsgrove, though, we've got to remember, and I think it was a colleague next to me, Councillor Sweeney, again, that said this, that during the 7 years of the Labour administration, they only spent 15,000 in Kidsgrove. And this administration, with its investment in Kidsgrove Sports Centre, bringing it back into use, using also money from the town deal and also bringing in money from elsewhere, meaning that centre can reopen to the public and it be a great asset for the community.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Julie Cooper, please.
Quickly, when we were going through all this and we were discussing what was going to happen with the new sports centre, whether we're going to move it, rebuild it or whatever, I was on that committee and we went on the search for land and everything. And on one of those papers, we've got in black and white, we have got £5,000 already set up. Now, I asked where the £5,000 was, and I was told by the Labour Party that were on my committee with me, we haven't got it written down anywhere. So I said, well, okay, look at the report on page 3. And there in black and white was the £5,000. He says, oh, we didn't know about, we haven't got that. That shouldn't have been in the report. But I saw that report because I was on that committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any other questions before I move to Councillor Tagg for his response? Councillor Tagg?
Thank you for that, Julie. I think I've said enough already.
We now move to paragraph 6, Newcastle Sustainable Environment Strategy, the annual report. Do members have any comments or questions on this paragraph, please? I see Councillor Jenny Cooper, followed by Councillor John Cooper. Councillor Jenny Cooper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given that to reach net zero by 2030, the council will change its vehicle fleet, what plans has the portfolio holder got in this regard, please?
Thank you. Councillor John Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's probably my last chance I'll ever speak in the council. I'm looking for the future. I just wonder if this council could plan for the future. That is to fit a vehicle charging point in every car park. Because I think in about 20 years, petrol cars will be very few and far between. We don't want to miss out all the town centres and all the vehicles going there. Can we have our electrical vehicle charges in place in time for when this happens? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor John Cooper. Any other speakers? I move to Councillor Tagg for his response, please.
Thank you. I will let Councillor Johnson do the question directed to him from Jenny Cooper. But on John Cooper's point, yes, we are beginning to do that. You'll notice some of the wrapped in plastic. I think still at the moment there are some charging points going up in some of the town centre car parks. And I did say earlier, Councillor Cooper, that the new car park on the Rycroft will be EV electric vehicle ready, so that will have the adequate charging points. And I completely agree with him. Looking to the future, we're going to need those, and we're beginning that now. And we're using, again, government money invested in Newcastle to move that forward. Thank you.
Councillor Trevor Johnson, please.
Thank you,
Didn't
Mr.
see
Mayor.
you there, Trevor, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it's quite exciting what we are going to be doing, what we're looking at to start getting these pollution figures down. And one of the things we've got on at the moment, we're looking at small adjustments to the Euro 6 engines on a couple of our fleets, so that we can commence with biofuel trials. And if that comes off, that's going to be a game changer. On the other hand, we're also partnering with Kiel now, exploring hydrogen fuel for the next generation of refuse trucks. So that's what we're doing at the moment. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Any comment, Councillor Tagg, or may we move on to...
Move on, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We move to paragraph 7, the Finance and Performance Review Report, third quarter, 2021/2022. Do members have any comments or questions? I see one. Councillor Andrew Fear, please. Councillor Fear.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I want to ask the leader whether he thinks that this is a good news story. I won't talk about the shape or the colour of these indicators, although our members know that I'm quite passionate about this. But nonetheless, what we see here is a set of indicators. There's only one red one. And it's very interesting that that red one is about short-term staff sickness in a third quartile when we had the Omicron surge upon us. Otherwise, everything seems to be moving, vast majority seems to be moving in the right direction. Would the leader agree with me that this shows that the council really is going places and we are on course for good times?
Thank you, Councillor Fear. Any other questions or comments? I move to Councillor Tagg for his response, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, as I say in my short paragraph there, this was a quarter really where it was the Omicron surge. And, it was, as I've said earlier, pleasing to see the extra footfall in the town centre. It was pleasing to see the recycling getting back on equilibrium with the food waste collections amounts going up and the residual going down as we'd kicked in food waste at the start of this quarter. So I think a really good picture, and to get that 84% target, I think Councillor Fee is right. It shows that we are going in the right direction, and it shows that through our One Council initiative, we were talking about that in the budget meeting, our last meeting, where we made savings from that, but the changes that has made to the way the council's run and the way it operates is beginning to show through. And then we're concentrating on neighbourhoods for cleanliness, etc., and concentrating on the community safety in the town centre with our marshals. The list goes on, and we're delivering on all that. And the quarter 3 was a difficult quarter, but as you can see, the council performed very well. And we should thank all of our officers that are working, or throughout the days and early hours for the refuge collections, and the officers that are, servicing meetings at this time of the evening as well, and for our executive management team that are keeping it all together and working with Cabinet over the last 4 years. I'd like to thank them all for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. We move on to paragraph 8, retiring members and borough elections. Do members have any comments or questions on paragraph 8? I see one. Councillor Kyle Robinson. Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I couldn't leave without saying something. I just wanted to say a few thank yous. So I'm sorry if this, we were saying the other night, sorry if this sounds a bit like the Oscars, but I do feel that I need to say a few thank yous. I just wanted to thank the Labour group, really, for all of the support that they've given me over the years here at Newcastle Borough Council to do the job of a councillor to the best of my ability. It really has been an honour to work alongside many of you, and I've learnt a lot from you, and I will miss many of you. When I first got onto Newcastle Borough Council, I was told by people like Georgie Cairns and Eddie Bowden to sit down, shut up and listen for 12 months. It's safe to say I didn't listen, and I did have my legs slapped by Sandra Hambleton and Altie Bates a few times. But I have to say, though, that some of the names I've mentioned and meeting and working with these people have had a lasting impact on me and will do for the rest of my life. One thing I've taken away from this experience is that politics is important, but I think we also have to remember that we are all human after all. We can have our differences, but we should try and be respectful whenever we can. That's something I'll definitely take away from this experience. And I think leading on to this, and politics aside, I would like to say thank you to Councillor Tagg. Yes, you lead the Conservatives in Newcastle and you've been leader of this council, but I do have huge respect for the work that you've done for the borough. And thank you also to Stephen Sweeney too. I know that we've disagreed in committees and council meetings, but we've always been reasonable and respectful to each other outside of meetings, and I'm grateful for that. Also, a few thanks to officers from me as well. Dave Adams, I think I have to say, I think Dave's service to the borough has been exemplary, to be quite honest. And I won't forget really the support that Dave gave me when I was first elected and all the way through till now. If I've ever had problems in my ward or needed issues resolving, usually Dave's been the officer that I've gone to because he gets the job done. And I am really grateful for that. And I think we should recognise that kind of service. And I'm not just talking about service to me, but actually the work he's done has supported and helped my residents that I've represented. I also want to mention Irene Lee and Robin Wiles. I think some of their work, again, has been absolutely invaluable in terms of the LAPS, locality action partnerships, well, not just in Butt Lane Talk, but all across the borough. I think some people, sometimes it's easy to forget the work that these people have done, but I know and I thank them. And same to Jeff Durham as well. Jeff, I don't know how you do half of what you do, and some of the things you have to deal with when you've got councillors ringing up about iPads and all sorts of issues, you always get it dealt with. And again, I think you're just amazing. It's been the honour of my life to serve the residents of Butt Lane and Talk. Serving alongside Sylvia and Mike has been also an absolute honour. They've been amazing, and I do hope that they are fortunate enough to be re-elected. I will miss it, honest. I'm not going to say I haven't made mistakes along the way as a councillor, but I can honestly say I've learned many lessons and will take that forward in my lifetime, in my life ahead. And I thank you all for that. So whilst I'll always advise people, sorry, Simon, to vote Labour, it is ingrained in me after all. I genuinely wish you all the best of luck for the future and good luck in the elections. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Would you like a response to that, Councillor Tagg?
I think Carl said it all, hasn't he? Just to say, on your first meeting, when you were told to sit there and say nothing, you did actually stand up and challenge me when I was leaving. So you didn't listen to Councillor Bowden. You got in straight in there with your challenge on the leader of the council when on your first council meeting, which I think set the tone for Kyle's obviously tenure as a councillor. He was always representing his residents. And I think you speak for probably all of the councillors that are standing down. I think when you thank people like Jeff and everybody and the senior management team and even the officers, you know, that don't usually get mentioned at full council, I think a great team, a great family council. And I'm sure all those that will come back after the election will find a council raring to go with many opportunities and to improve the lives of our borough residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. We move on to paragraph 9, the forward plan. Do members have any comments or questions, please? I don't see any. Therefore, there's no response from Councillor Simon Tagg. We now move to the next substantive item. It's the reports of the chairs of the scrutiny committees. This is agenda item 10, which is at pages 61 and 62 of the agenda. Written reports are attached for the Health, Wellbeing and Partnership Scrutiny Committee and the Economy, Environment and Place Scrutiny Committee. A verbal update will be given for the Finance, Assets and Performance Scrutiny Committee. Therefore, Councillor Holland, would you like to give your verbal update, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance, Assets and Performance Scrutiny Committee met on the 24th of March, its last meeting for the present cycle. And I'd like to thank all of the members of that committee for the work they've done, particularly those who are standing down and retiring at this election, not least of which Councillor Bert Proctor, who was able to join us earlier on for the start of the meeting. I look forward to the future with joy in my heart.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. These reports are here for information and noting. So can the reports be received, please? Received. Thank you, Councillor Stubbs. The next substantive item of business is the reports of the chairs of the regulatory committees. This is agenda item 11. The Licensing and Public Protection Committee and Audit and Standards Committee have not met since the last meeting of the full council. A verbal update will be given for the Planning Committee, and I would ask Councillor Andrew Fear, would you like to give your verbal update, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The committee has met on its regular cycle, and as its members will no doubt be all too aware, the agendas are getting heavier. After a lull, they're becoming longer. We've had some long and good debates. The next agenda may be as long, and it is more than likely that kickoff will be at 6:30, not 7 o'clock. You heard it here first, so that we don't go on into the bowels of the night. I think that's good for debate of items. It means we can consider things without thinking about going to bed at midnight and such like. Like Councillor Holland, I would like, given this is the last time I can do this before the elections, to thank all members who sat on the committee for working so hard to make sure that we've had good debates. I'd particularly like to thank those who are leaving the council that we've seen tonight. And I'd like to single out, if I may, Councillor Reddish. Councillor Reddish, as the vice chairman of this committee, has put in an awful lot of spade work behind the scenes. She's been very diligent in her work. This evening, we've seen that she's a lady who will say what she thinks, regardless of how other people receive this. And that is a very good thing indeed. If we're going to have a proper debate, proper democracy, we need to hear all points of view. And again, it's nice in the chamber this evening that that was received with respect, even if perhaps it wasn't received in all quarters with agreement. I think we will miss that sort of political courage on the planning committee. So I would very much like to thank Marion for her contribution over the time.
Thank you, Councillor Fear. These reports are here for information and noting. Please can the reports be received? Noted. Thank you. Members, the next agenda item is item 12, members' questions. I have received 2 questions for the leader and cabinet members, and these have been tabled this evening. I will ask members to read out their question, after which I will ask the leader or relevant cabinet member to respond. The member asking the question may then ask a supplementary question. Could I remind members that if they have a supplementary question, it must be a question and not a statement, and it must be concise, focused, and relate to the subject matter of the initial question and answer. The first question is from Councillor Andrew Fox-Hewitt regarding the number of employees. Councillor Fox-Hewitt, your question, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question is, can the leader please provide the following information to members? What was the total headcount of employees employed by the council on the 1st of January 2018? And what was the headcount as of March the 31st of this year? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox-Hewitt. Councillor Simon Tagg, your response, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 1st of January 2018, the headcount was 497. On the 31st of March this year, 2022, it was 441. I await the supplementary.
Thank you, Councillor Tagg. Councillor Fox-Hewitt, do you have a supplementary question at all?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that response. Can the leader please provide, in due course, an itemised breakdown of which areas of service delivery have seen the reduction in establishments during that period? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox-Hewitt. Councillor Tagg, your response, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can do that, but just for a bit of context, I would say we now have since that date, which of course is a date which is not just plucked out the air. It was just after my administration took over after 7 years of a Labour administration. And at that point, we didn't have a functioning HR team. We didn't have a functioning legal team. We certainly didn't have a functioning election team. We didn't have a town centre officer. We didn't have a focus on neighbourhoods, and our environmental agenda was non-existent. And we didn't actually have a chief executive at that point. Of course, now we have all of those things and we're moving forward. And the reason we didn't have all those things at that date in 2018 is because Labour had crashed the council.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Paragraphs 13.4a, b and c of our standing orders of the Constitution require the answer direct and not what we're hearing, the usual rubbish tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The final question is from Councillor Paul Waring regarding the council tax rebate. Councillor Waring, your question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's good news about the government's £150 council tax rebate for residents of the borough in council tax bands A to D. Can the portfolio holder for finance, town centres and growth update the council on when people can expect to receive the rebate? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question,
Councillor Sweeney.
Councillor Waring. Yeah, this is again the government giving the council money. The actual fund is £2,925,444, of which our share is close to £7.5 million. And we've got that money. That money is in our bank account now. There's also a discretionary fund being put up for £206,000, which again is in our bank account. In answer to your question, people on A to D band houses, providing they've got a direct debit set up, they will receive the money week commencing 25th of the 4th straight into their bank accounts. So they don't have to do anything with it. Now, obviously, there's a push on at the moment to try to get more people to sign up for direct debits. It makes it a lot easier, a lot quicker to get this money out. But if they don't, then around about the same time, they'll have to actually apply for the money. It's the only way we can do it. But again, it's a sign of the money of the government giving Newcastle Borough Council money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Councillor Waring, do you have a supplementary question?
I do indeed, Mr. Mayor. What happens to those people whose homes fall into the bands E to H? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. A very pertinent question. We all hear stories about people, perhaps widows or widowers or something like that, who've got a big, expensive house to run somewhere like perhaps the Westlands and not a lot of money. So property rich, cash short. So these are the people, this discretionary part of this is designed to capture. So the sort of things we're talking about is people who are on income-related benefits, such as council tax support or disabled benefits, and they're living the band at E to H house, they can get it. Households with energy bill payers are not liable for council tax. Perhaps somebody's a mature student or something, so they pay council tax. They've still got to pay the gas electric, so they can get it. Households in bands E to H who receive a single occupancy discount can get it. But it's a flexible feast as this. This is the first model of it. And when you read the policy, and I've just read part of the policy here, which is great, it's got it from myself and the 151 officer have got the ability to tweak it to give anybody else who's worthy of the money or deserves the money. So we can change the policy to give them that money to get it out through the door. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. We move on to agenda item 13, which is to receive petitions from members. We have had a petition from a member of the public this evening, but are there any petitions that members would like to hand to me? No, thank you. Agenda items 14 and 15 relate to urgent business and confidential business. I have no urgent or confidential business that needs to be considered this evening. That therefore concludes the business for this meeting, and I therefore declare the meeting closed. May I wish you a safe journey home and I hope that everyone enjoys the rest of their evening. Thank you.